Hi, this is Ferre with TaxSaleSupport.com. I'm here with Swenson, and this is one of our Property Deal of the Day videos where we discuss recent properties that have gone through the tax sale. And we think they're interesting or worth discussing or talking about. So let's review one of the first ones here, which is this is a property that sold recently, sold in the last week in one of the New York County online auctions. So, things about this property. Sorry, let me back that up. There are things about this property that we can tell. First off, it's a one-story house, very simple house. If we're talking about, I mean, it's just like it's shaped like a square. Houses don't get more simple than that, and that is very attractive from an investor standpoint if you need to do repairs or work on the house. But from looking at it on the outside, it looks like it's boarded up, and sometimes that will scare people off if they see something like that, because it's what you see oftentimes with vacant or abandoned properties. So this one's kind of boarded up. We can see here. Looked like the buyer won the property here for $57,000. Although this particular property we were looking at, and it market on it is closer to about 222.
Yeah, exactly. Nice little house, 1,100 square feet, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. It's on an acre and a half. Now, one thing, in fact, we were talking about this property with our coaching students this week, and we had the question about what about the fact that this property is boarded up, and to us, that can mean a good thing or that could be a bad thing, depending on the type of property. And to us, this looks like a good thing, and we'll explain to you why. Because you're looking at the property itself, the grass looks like, even though we may be at a time where the grass isn't growing as much, you can see that it was mowed recently or last. We don't see huge weeds surrounding the property. We can also see that there appears to be a walkway, so it's handicap accessible, which may tell us something about the owner of the property. So in looking at this property, just based on the condition, what we can see, we believe that they boarded the property up. The property owners boarded the property up to protect the property, to keep vagrants, to keep people from getting into it. And maybe in this case, maybe the owner ended up, going into a rest home or something like that. There could be some explanation as why this property is in the tax sale, or maybe they passed away. But the fact that it was boarded up, to us in this case, is actually a good thing based on the condition of the outside.
Yeah. In fact, we can see it's interestingly enough, the windows are boarded up, but the front door is not. So it's not preventing access into the property so much as it's just protecting, those windows. But yeah, like Steve was saying, though, that I kind of thought the same thing about the ramp there in the front, that it must have been owned by somebody that was elderly. We oftentimes see ramps like that with these homes. And so all of those things are makes sense, with this property. Uh, it's a prefab from 1998, so really it's not that old. At least effectively it was built in 1998, so we know quite a bit about how it was built and its construction methods here. Things like the furnace, we basically know the effective age of everything here on the property and how much it's been used. And things that may be needed. I mean, so for instance, we can see on the roof, it has a metal roof, which is a nice feature there to have. We're not gonna have to worry about replacing that here, anytime soon. Um, Beyond that, like Steve was saying, the landscaping and stuff on the property is done. There's no real signs or indications or major issues that we really see, other than the fact the property is boarded up. But beyond that, there's not really a lot that we can see, and the price is really where they did well with this purchase. This investor did really well with their pricing on this by picking it up for 25% of value at the $57,000. $57,000, it's a steal. This is absolutely a steal at $57,000. This house is just excellent, and that's because it's worth quite a bit. It's worth a couple $100,000, and so there's a lot of potential profit at that price point.
Yeah, for sure. On the other end of the scale, sometimes we'll see homes that are boarded up in the middle of a city. And in that case, that could be the city actually boarding the property up. That's something that will determine when we get into the clerk or the recorder records to start researching for other government liens. In fact, sometimes we found properties in the tax sale where the owner passed away. And that kind of explains why the property's gone into the tax sale. Maybe they didn't have any family members and just quit paying property taxes and it went to the tax sale. And so in looking at some of those inner cities or some of the different places like that, if we see that the property's very run down and it's been boarded up, well, that's an indication that it's probably the city doing that. And so the condition of that, we're going to be more worried about based on the outside condition and the fact of where the property is located. So yeah, I believe this is boarded up to protect it. And picking it up for 25 cents on the dollar, they got a great deal for it, especially because it has some value to it. It's worth over 200,000. And so, there may have been investors that kind of were weary or not willing to pay as much on it because the fact that it was boarded up. But in this case, based on the location, based on the condition, we actually think it's a good thing. So I think this investor probably hit it out of the park on this.
Yeah, yeah, they're going to do really well with this property there and that price point. They just absolutely are going to do very well. Very well with it. And yeah, well, yeah, what an interesting property. But yeah, at that price point though, it will be hard to beat. And really, I mean, you have the potential with this purchase, I would say, for this person to triple their money, possibly quadruple their money, which is just unheard of with most investments. So really, they just did incredibly well with this one. And the other thing that we just love about properties like this is that this property would be an ideal little income producer if you wanted to hang on to it long term. It probably rents out it probably rents out for $1,500 or $2,000 a month. A fairly high amount that could generate quite a bit of yearly revenue. If you wanted to keep it long term, this would be an ideal property for something like that, due with its size and its age.
Yeah, for sure. So overall, a pretty good deal, one that we'd give a thumbs up to. If you like what we do, please go ahead and subscribe, ask us any questions in the comments section. And if you'd like some additional training, the best place to be able to do that is through our membership program at taxsalesupport.com. For a low monthly fee, or you can go ahead and sign up for a year and get a big discount. It's going to give you access to all of our auction list, our over-the-counter list, our weekly live webinars, all of our training videos, all of our programs and ebooks and everything like that. It's going to give you access to all of it. And so go ahead and check it out. We really do believe it's probably the best value in tax sale education. And we offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. Have been doing that since 2007.
Yeah, there are lots and lots of ways that you can make mistakes and lose money with tax sale investing. Going into, especially as a new investor, that is probably the riskiest time for you is when you're new and you're making your first purchases. So, absolutely, we'd love you to get involved with the training so that you don't go out there and just buy blindly. You want to buy based on numbers and based on based on the facts. And um, you know, that's the information we like to be able to cover, is that we like to be able to take away a lot of the confusion that surrounds tax sale investing and help people understand on a very basic and simple level. So yeah, go to the website if you would like to get more information like this, especially if you are looking to get additional training. TaxSaleSupport.com is going to be the best place to go to do that.
Man, you're absolutely right about making mistakes. In fact, Shay just got back from what we consider our buying tour, where we take students to an auction. And we had done our due diligence beforehand and had researched these building lots that weren't even buildable. They needed to be 7,000 square feet to be a buildable lot within that city, and these were between 5,000 and 6,500. In addition to that, most of them had multiple years worth of government liens. And just going to the auction and seeing people bid on those properties, you could see just by their bidding that they didn't do any of the research into what they were actually buying. And so in that case, there was people that maybe lost $1 million in that auction by bidding on properties where they didn't do the due diligence beforehand. That's the great thing about the membership program, is we try to teach you everything so that you avoid making those kind of mistakes.
Yeah, in fact, yeah, it's amazing just how much you can learn just by attending an auction, and participating. Just by even if you didn't spend any money at all, if you just watched the auction, and what was happening, and you understood what all the properties were that were being offered up, it would teach you quite a bit about not only about the people that were there and that were you were competing against. It would teach you about uh, really it teaches so many different things here. I mean, what we realized just was that once you know what the properties are, you can pretty well tell which investors know what they're doing and which ones don't. Which ones are guessing or are basically trying to, are just hoping that the other person knows what they're doing and really don't know anything about the property itself. There's a lot of that happens, and so you definitely don't want to be that person. You want to be an investor that has good information, knows how to find it, and that's what we focus on, is basically trying to teach you how to find the important information, how to remove the risks from the investment, and how to find the best deals.
Yeah, tax sale investing is risky enough. You don't need to add more risk by not going through the proper due diligence and research. So if you like what we do, check us out. Please go ahead and give us a like. We should appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much.